Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Let's go. Okay. Look at all those notes, man.
Dude, this is like all podcast notes from I don't know how long.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Not messing around. You're coming prepared.
Yeah. I'm a handwritten note type kind of guy.
Why is
It's all I think part of it's like, if I write it, I think I remember it more.
I don't know. That's a classic old school move right there.
Yeah. So yeah, we got a whole
binder
thing of Now I've got some like loose leaf ones like stashed away somewhere. More here.
Like a thought, like right. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You're like a news reporter right there, or an ESPN reporter. That's not fired.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever have one of those thoughts like you're about to fall asleep or something like that, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, and you write that down real quick."
Yeah. Usually, what I'll do is I have like a separate tab in my notes on my phone, and I'll type it in there real quick, and then next morning I'll get up and write it down on my podcast notes.
There you go. See, you're a mix and match guy. Like you're like, I'm not limited to paper. If I don't have paper, I'm gonna use my phone.
Yeah, like if it's I'm like, if I'm not like real close to it, and I'm like, okay, I'll type it out real quick. That way, I have it saved in my phone. Yeah, I have like our tab, and then I have another one below that says my podcast notes. So just in case if there's something that like pops up, or if I'm reading it, like say I'm not home or something, and something popped up, I go, oh, that'd be cool to talk about. Or I'll like if I'm on like Facebook or something, I'll screenshot it. Screenshot the picture.
I do that a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where my trivia question for you today comes from. So I hope you're ready. It's a good one. Yeah. So, well, for those of you that are joining us on the live stream on YouTube, guys, thanks for coming and hanging out with us. I know it's a bit of a moving schedule, moving target. There's the word, moving target every now and then when it comes to podcast recording, but that's okay because both Tubby and myself, we got other things that are going on like families and jobs and everything in between. So thank you guys for being flexible and joining us at odd times,
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I was sitting there this morning. I was like, oh man. We had dogs going to the vet today, and they're like, it's going to be later. I was like, dang it. Anywhere from 4 to 6 is when they'll be done. I'm like, that 4 to 6 doesn't help a whole lot.
When did it end up happening?
We picked them up about 6.
Oh, okay, good. So right in there in the sweet spot. So, well, that's good because my wife texted me and said, "Hey, can you sub for our softball team? Our first baseman's out." And I'm like, "Yeah, first base for sure. I mean, you're getting a lot of action, and you don't have to run as much."
No, just go cover. Yeah.
Yeah, I did have a little dribbler that went right over the line, never went foul, and sure enough, the stupid thing, I'm like, it's gonna hit the back, and it didn't. So because it's not a perfect field, it's an adult softball league. It starts to veer away from the bag. So I went to pick it up, and this dude's hauling it down the line. And I went to pick it up, and I missed it. And so I just drummed my head like I'm not even gonna be that guy that's like, no. Like I can't do that. Like he's gonna get first base. It's fine.
Yeah, don't risk injury for it.
Yeah, no. We smoked him. It was 18-0 at the time. I was like, I ain't worried about it.
It reminds me of first base Moneyball whenever they're sitting there trying to talk Catbird. Yeah.
It's super easy. Super easy.
Yeah, super easy. Tell them Wash. It's the hardest position.
So, yeah, and it is. So, but I like it. It's fun. We got a double play on a pop-up. Someone just took off. I was like, all right, I'm here. I'm ready. Didn't do nothing. I had an RBI, like a 2-run triple, but I had a RBI ground out first at bat, right back to the pitcher. But the person on third scored, so it's productive out.
Yep, we take that all day.
Yeah, I'm all about the productive outs. I mean, 18-0 at the time, or whatever it wasn't at the time, but it was getting the ball rolling. What sucks is it's like a run rule after so many innings if you're smoking them like that. And the sad thing is I was due up next, and I was going to bat left-handed. I was like, I did the first 2 right-handed. Let's do left-handed now.
Did you see Adley at the home run derby?
No, did he do that?
So yeah, he started out left-handed. He was batting left-handed through the first, 2.5 innings or whatever it is, and then he got the extra 30 seconds at the end. He flipped and hit. Well, I think he went 8 for 7 or for 9, 8 for 10 or something like that from the right side.
That's awesome.
But somehow he hit 27 and got knocked out in the first round.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, he was my pick to be one of the worst performers, but that performance is great. Like that just means bad matchup.
Yeah, one thing, it's either like Adolis Garcia and like Arozarena, those guys, they don't have the consistent power to hit the 440 mark to get the extra 30 on top of the extra 30 because, or this stadium is just hard to hit the 440 mark because some of these guys are struggling to get it to that 440 mark.
Yeah, well, I bet. I mean, you're at like sea level too, so like you're not getting any help from just the lay of the land, right? Like everything is going to have to travel the full 440 if you want it. You're not getting any cheapies. This isn't Colorado.
Yeah, and they're like, there's not really a distinct advantage for lefty righty. You know, there's maybe a slight advantage for the righties because there's more space to possibly hit that 440 than the left-handed side. But I know Rutschman, he didn't reach it. I think Luis Roberts is the only one that got 2 over 440.
That makes sense. That dude is a beast.
Yeah.
I think. Do you think he gets traded? By the way, I know we're a little bit.
I mean,
with trade deadline, but do you think
his value probably will never be as high as it is right now?
Yeah.
With the way he's playing second in the AL in home runs, he's one of the only guys on that team that's actually hitting.
Productive outfielder too. I mean, like in his position, like against the Cardinals this last week, and they were playing, and the Cardinals came back after they blew it, a lead or whatever, and they took the lead back again, and the next inning just absolute moonshot into the left field, over the left field wall. And I was like, as soon as it went, I was like, if it's fair, it's gone. And it was. I mean, it wasn't like a close one, but
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, I think they're a team that just needs to tear down, rebuild. So why not because I'm sure you could get quite a bit for him. He's young.
Yeah.
I mean, he's best season of his career right now.
He's healthy right now.
Yeah, he's healthy. Yeah, sure you could get a pretty decent haul for the guy and, prospect wise.
Yeah. Well, I look at that team right now, and we talked about Tim Anderson a little bit. I'm not like he's still struggling, and then you have Eloy is just like a shell.
Dude, see, and that's what part of me wonders if part of that is the same thing with Tim Anderson. Is that did you see that pitch against the Cardinals this weekend where he's standing there in the box? I don't know if he tried to call time and ump didn't grant it or whatever, but before the pitch is really even delivered, he's turning around, walking out of the box, heading back to the dugout. And so that's what I'm like. Yeah, you can tell he's done with Chicago, and that's what part of me wonders if that's why we've kind of seen a somewhat bad Tim Anderson in the last couple of years, is because he's just kind of mentally just done and needs a new place, and so maybe getting traded could help boost his spirits and maybe boost some things for both of them. But yeah, he literally took the pitch, and he had 2 strikes on him too, and he just turned around and walked off like he knew, okay, it's going to be a strike, or just walked off out of the batter's box mid pitch.
Yeah, that's never a good sign. Never a good sign. I mean, luckily for him, All-Star break is this week, so he doesn't have to worry about getting benched tomorrow and it being a storyline before a trade deadline. So that's what's good. Colin, welcome to the evening edition of the W Sports Podcast. Colin's going to be feeling pretty good. Alek Manoah came out last week against the Tigers. I understand. Hey, great stat line. No walks. That was the big thing. No walks.
Yeah. I mean, so we saw what he did at the Florida Complex League. So, yeah. So, I mean, I don't care what major league team that is. You just, no walks, 10 Ks, no runs, 1 hit. Yeah.
He's pretty excited too. Like his energy was in it, which was definitely a big deal.
Yeah. So maybe this is the start of the Blue Jays finally playing their best ball of, going forward second half of the season, really starting to get it going. Saying if Manoah is on, this team becomes even more dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like making a trade. That's what they always say. Whenever you get an injury back or something like that, well, this is the potential to be that like big piece that comes back to a team that right now is one of the leading wild card teams in obviously the AL and they're right there with the Astros. Yeah, the Astros,
Mhm.
who are not in the same position as what the Blue Jays could. So the momentum,
Yeah.
So I got to boost that confidence. That's right, Colin. Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see, or was it on the notes real quick here? Wemby got shut down already.
Yeah.
And so he's not injured. He's not I don't think it's for fear of injury. They're just making sure he doesn't get injured. So,
Yeah.
did you read about it or anything like that?
I didn't read about it. I know there was a lot of stuff that, I mean, he was getting a lot of crap for that first game.
2 for 13.
Yeah. I mean, and granted so, but, people are immediately like, oh, he's a bust. He's, he's going to be the next, Greg Oden or something like that, because you can't take, one summer league game and immediately go, okay, that kid's not going to be.
Yeah.
To me, he's like, after the first thing that kind of worried me was afterwards, he's like, I didn't know what I was doing out there type thing. I'm like, wait a second. Now, the more I thought about it, I was like, maybe he's talking about offensive wise, the system and stuff like that. He doesn't know. Most of these guys that he's playing with, they were actually, part of the summer league team, or there's a bunch of young guys that were on the team, so they've been through the system and they knew what they were doing. Because he just seemed lost out there during that first game, and the energy just seemed a little off. That second game comes out, puts up 27, 12 boards, 5 blocks, and he looks like the guy that everyone expected, and then they were like, okay, let's shut it down. So I wonder if they were just like, okay, we seen one good game out of him, get it out now, get it while his confidence is at the highest, and make sure he doesn't get injured before the season starts.
Yeah, I think they said, hey, was playing in the Australian League. Or which one was it? France League, Euro League, whatever it was. And so his schedule's different. So they're like, let's just give him a break before the long grueling season starts. And he starts having load management from Greg Popovich anyway. So I don't know. Just let the dude get some reps in the NBA. Like, they want to give him a taste. Well, I understand he's a generational talent, but let the guy play if he's right, if he's healthy and ready to play. But I know the NBA is a grind. But I also know that the Spurs and the originators of load management, and it just so. I mean, I don't know why they're worried about it now.
But his season did just really end about a month ago.
Yeah.
And so I can understand that going, okay, he hasn't really had a break yet. So let's let him play a couple, summer league games, then shut it down, give him, a few months break, just kind of reload, get ready, for the big long haul. So to me, it makes sense. Yeah. Being principally because he wasn't even able to be at the draft lottery because he was playing in a playoff game in France.
Oh.
So,
okay. Well, you know what? I'll just go ahead and quiet my mouth then. My bad.
I mean, it makes sense the more, I think it was probably that factor that you're going, he hasn't had really a chance because he was actually supposed to play for the French national team in the FIBA World Championship. And he was like, no, it's just too much right now. I got drafted. I'm going to focus on the NBA type and, skip playing for France.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the NBA season it feels like it doesn't start for a long time, but I mean, October is, I think, when the preseason starts, and we're mid-July already. So hopefully he does get some rest, and, he's going to get load management, whatever. It's fine. Let me see here. Well, I think I'm ready. If you're ready. Yeah.
We're ready.
Let's go. All right. Evening edition. Right. Almost hit the wrong button. 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome back, everyone, to the W Sports Podcast live. As we say these words coming out of our mouth right now, over on YouTube. If you didn't know this, you got to join us on YouTube Monday nights, usually around 6:30. We'd love to have you be part of the podcast because it's myself, Jimothy, alongside me, as always, is the one and only Tubby.
What is up? We're at the midway mark for baseball. Now this is when the things really get intense. Trying to make those right moves.
Yeah, they say you better not look at the standings until you get to Memorial Day. Well, we're past Memorial Day. You're to the All-Star break where you're starting to ask those big questions of who are buyers and who are sellers. And we're going to have, of course, some more trade discussions as we get into the trade season, which for those who don't know, into July. So we're literally almost there. But a big name that we'll get to here soon. And I don't know if you want to do baseball first or if you're feeling football first, but
Might as well. I'm good either way.
Right. So those who came here for the football news know that we're going to get there. So just keep listening. You know, that's why you're here anyways. So when it comes to baseball, talking about the trade deadline, the big news was Mike Trout goes down. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. And this could not come at a worse time for the Los Angeles Angels, as they are now 45 and 46, which doesn't sound terrible. That's still within striking distance. The problem is they've lost 5 in a row and are 1-9 in their last 10 games. They are reeling. Rendon was injured. A blister for Shohei Ohtani. Dude, this thing is falling apart.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that they talked about it the other day. They asked the owner, you know, like, are you up for trading Shohei Ohtani? And his words literally, he said, I don't want to be known as the person that traded the best player in baseball. But the thing is like, at this point, do you want to be known as the guy that lost the best player in baseball for absolutely zero, for nothing? Because that's what's going to happen. So why not just, because the Hall, even if he is a free agent, because say you trade him to the Dodgers, there's a very good chance that he would re-sign with the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. So why not, if you're them, or and the Dodgers offer you this haul of prospects, do you not take the deal? Because
in the Dodgers,
well, I mean, we all know that
the Cardinals, man, come on.
We know the teams with the farm systems that are willing to shop them, because Dodgers have done it before.
Yeah,
and so it's going to be. I think it almost has to be a team also that is a very realistic possibility that he's going to resign.
Yeah.
And everything I'm hearing is it sounds like it's probably the Dodgers, the Giants, or the two teams. And there's that small whisper maybe possibly about the Mariners, but I don't know if they dish out that type of money. If they're that, I don't think they're that type of organization that's going to throw out $600 million to a single player like the Dodgers or the Giants would. So I think it almost has to be to one of those teams. And if you're taking pick, Dodgers farm system is about 10 times better than what the Giants have going on. And you're able to get a haul of, Diego Cartaya, probably Bobby Miller, a couple of these, Gavin Stone. I mean, pretty much you take the pick of which guys you want, and you're probably going to get them. Why not take that haul of prospects instead of losing the guy in the offseason for nothing?
Yeah, and what are the chances, just a little homegrown story here, that he grew up a Mariners fan?
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility.
The Mariners are a massive, massive team in Japan, obviously because of Ichiro. Mm-hmm. So there's a chance. I think so. Here, someone said this. Now, let's assume he doesn't get traded. They're not competitive in 2 months. They're obviously not going to rush Mike Trout back. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no reason to. Obviously, or also, Mike Trout is now injury prone. He's plagued with injuries. This has become a common occurrence. And it's not even like the same. It's not like, oh, it's his bad knee. Oh, it's a bad knee. This is something that just sucks every single year that takes him out. And it's bad, unfortunately, for us as baseball fans. But what I want to just say is what if they traded Mike Trout and they traded Shohei? That could reset them so much. Like, why not consider that? Because where they're at right now, they're literally at best spinning their tires in a bunch of mud. Might as well take the tires off, make it a snowmobile, and let's move on.
Yeah, exactly. And it was Alex Rodriguez said something about that before for the home run derby, and said, "Oh, you trade both those guys, you're automatically going to be in a World Series in the next 3 years," which I think is absolutely dumb, because we know the sport of baseball, prospects are not guaranteed to pan out.
Yeah.
And so for you to think that just because you traded those two guys and you're going to get a pretty good haul of prospects, more than likely, hopefully 50% of those guys hit. And it's probably closer to the 40 to 35% of those guys will actually hit their, true potential. So the saying that you trade those guys, you're automatically going to be a World Series contender, I think is a little dumb because it's a sport where you just never really know with prospects.
Yeah,
But
I definitely agree with that. I don't think that the chance but I think they'd be closer to contending for a playoff spot if they
mhm,
traded away both. Now, Shohei very limited on where he can go because of what it's going to cost. I mean, this dude
mhm.
is going to get paid so much money because he's two of the best players in baseball. And Mike Trout has been in the past. He's now, I don't think he's necessarily worth the contract. So the problem with that is if they want to the Angels wanted to truly get the best value out of Mike Trout, they're going to have to eat some of that money, if not a good chunk of it. Even though the more they do that, they be able to get some back just because he is injury. That is going to be the hard thing for people. And listen, he's missed so many games the last couple of years. He hasn't played. I don't think he's played a full season since 2018 or something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and now he on top of that, yeah, he gets hit in the wrist. That's kind of just a freak accident type thing. But he also has this degenerative back issue now that is going to be with him the rest of his career going forward. And you got to worry, how much more is his back really going to be able to hold up through the next few years, especially with, the long list of injuries he's had, these last 4 or 5 seasons. It, really puts things in check that, yeah, I'm sure you can still get a pretty good haul for him just because it is Mike Trout. The name is going to sell itself a lot. So that helps there. But I don't know if it would have been as high as it was if you, say, traded him a couple of years ago, just because
For sure.
now you have less tread off the tires. And, so, yeah, I think trading both of them would be a smart idea because, like I said, if not, you're just going to be stuck in this middle of mediocrity. Keep on going where you just miss the playoffs because you can't really get any better, and you just keep on running the same guys out there every single year. Or maybe you'll throw a Tyler Anderson in there, and he absolutely has one of the worst seasons of his career after coming off a career year in LA. And it seems to be their MO. They go after these guys that they probably shouldn't go after because, yeah, they had a breakout year, but you're going to go out and pay them up, and then they just flop on their face once they get to the Angels.
Yeah, and
Typical.
his last season to have at least 140 games was in fact 2018. The last time to have over 150, 155 plus was 2016. I mean, it's not. I mean, guys, that's 7 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a long time. So I think this sucks for baseball just because he is such a massive talent. But you look at some of those all-time big stats and where he's at, he's 31 now. You just say, okay, he somehow makes it to he's 37, 38, 39. He's not hitting. I mean, hopefully we'll get to see him hit 500 home runs. I don't think we'll see 6. We're not going to see. I mean, hopefully you see 1,500 RBIs, but I don't see that as a lock anymore. And you're definitely not seeing 2,000. I mean, that's what just sucks is those are some of the big round numbers. And right now it is trending down also for his batting average to be below that beautiful 300 mark. So it's a shame, but I think if I was Angels, I would consider trading them and going after teams that have a lot of high end talent and saying, hey, we're going to reset and see what we can do. Because the other end of this is you have 1 or 2 really good stars. And then at the end of this time period, Mike Trout's career stat line is 1 for 12 with a home run, 3 walks, and 1 RBI in the playoffs at the end of his career.
Yeah.
That's it.
You know what would be an interesting place? And a team that has a bevy of prospects is always one of the top. And they are one of the top teams in baseball this year, even though it's a terrible, terrible market. But can you imagine him bringing that leadership to the Tampa Bay Rays? I mean,
chance they do it, but yes, I see your point.
Hey, they went after Freddie Freeman in free agency, which I think shocked a lot of people because they're not a team that typically pays. And on top of that, if the Angels are eating part of that contract, it may
that's true.
Push them a little bit further. Go, okay, hey, I mean, I think any team should be open to adding the guy. Yeah, like you said, he hasn't played over 140 games since 2018, 150 since 2016, but it's still Mike Trout.
It's still Mike Trout.
I mean, if he doesn't get hurt last year, he really would probably be. There would have been like the Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire race who's going to break the record first? Who's going to break
Mhm.
Maris's record? Because the pace that he was on last year, home run wise, he would have hit the 62, 63 mark at the pace he was hitting last year.
Mhm.
So
So
he still can play.
yeah. Well, that brings up a question. I put this and I couldn't remember it up until just a minute ago what the answer was or what the question was. What's more impressive is because I've heard this like no one. This is the best athlete we've ever seen in sports. He's doing it from two sides, pitching and he's dominating in the batter's box. And so there's no comparison. He is his own person, and I get that. But what's more impressive, him or Bo Jackson? That's the only. And Dion was the other one, but Dion.
Yeah.
I'm still going to give it to Bo Jackson because he was just different. And those who don't know, Bo Jackson played in Major League Baseball in the mid to late 80s through 94. So 86 to 94. He didn't play full seasons because guess what? At the same time, in the late 80s, he was still playing in the NFL. And his career in the NFL is over 2,000 yards, almost 3,000 yards rushing. He had a yard per attempt. This is just wild to me. His first season was nearly 7 yards per attempt running the ball, but his career is at 5.4. He wasn't a big catch with the backfield, but that wasn't a big thing back then. But and then his stats that same time period was the peak of his time with the Royals, where he was hitting 28, 32 home runs, 25 home runs, 22 home runs. I mean, I'm just saying, like, he's the closest thing we got.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking just pure athlete, it's Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson was a freak of an athlete. But if we're talking about, player wise, I don't think we ever got to see Bo Jackson really hit his what could be the true potential because of the hip and knee issues that he had towards the end of his career. Really ended his playing career. So what could have been with Bo Jackson, I think, is a big question. But I mean, Shohei is a different breed of person. I mean, player. I mean, there's just we've never seen anyone do what he's doing, and the big thing for it too is like he does every aspect of baseball. It's not like, oh, he's just a good pitcher and he can hit home runs. No, he's one of the tops in RBIs. Bats over 300. He's number one in slugging percentage. He's 20, 30 stolen bases every single year. And on top of that, when he came into the league, he was a really good defensive outfielder, before he went to DH because of Albert Pujols. So the guy really could have done every single, not could, he can do every aspect of baseball. So it's kind of hard, I think, to compare the two because I don't think we ever really got to see Bo Jackson hit that absolute, peak of what he could have based off of the athletic ability he had. So I'm gonna lean towards, if we're just talking about best players wise, I'm gonna go Shohei. If we're talking about just pure athlete, I don't know if there's ever been a more athletic person than Bo Jackson.
It is hard for me to go against Bo Jackson, just because it's like run in the NFL. The way defense was played back in the 80s, it's hard. Like, I get Shohei Ohtani is the best baseball player we've ever seen. Like, pure, like, athletic baseball player. I'm just, like, as hard as it is to be a running back in the NFL and then to go out and be productive on the baseball field, like, it is so stupid hard. I don't know. Greatest athlete, like you said, I think you put it well. Greatest athlete, Bo Jackson. And then best all-around baseball player, Shohei Ohtani. It's just, we can't even fathom it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that's hard to really compare because one, we'll never see Shohei Ohtani play baseball or football. It's just because it's not something they do.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that Bo Jackson, what he was able to do on the football field and on the baseball field is something we'll probably never see again because it's just not the thing. I mean, maybe Kyler Murray would have been the only player that we could possibly, but it was baseball or football. And then it's different for a quarterback too, because as the quarterback, you have to be at every meeting, everything, because you are the leader of that team. A running back, you can take, I guess you need to take a few days off, go hit some baseballs or whatever. But so, something we'll probably never see, but like I said, I think the one thing, player wise that does it is that we just never really got to see Bo Jackson hit that true potential of what I mean. Because if he stays healthy, we're probably talking about one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game because of the numbers he was putting up at the time. It was something you looked at and you go, okay, this has to be fake.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why in Tecmo football on yeah, you picked Bo Jackson, you want no one could beat you.
Yeah.
Because he was that guy.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I have played as Shohei Ohtani on MLB The Show and still lost. So that's just because I was playing with the Angels. I don't blame Shohei. I blame the Angels.
Yeah, put Shohei on any other team and you win.
Yeah. So I'm curious, how do you feel about no-hitters when they're combined no-hitters?
I mean, one, I think it is somewhat harder to do just because now you're not just counting on one guy to not give up a hit. You're counting on 3 to 4 other guys to not give up a hit. And so, especially for a Tigers team who doesn't have a great bullpen.
Bro, they got like 14 all-time no-hitters. It's a stupid high number.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then who'd they do it against? The Blue Jays, which is a great hitting team. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive to say. I mean, it's a no-hitter, though. I mean, no matter what, it's tough to do. But I think it gets a little bit harder when you throw more guys into the factor because you go, okay, well, that guy has one bad night, he gives up a hit. We saw it with the Dodgers. Emmett Sheehan goes 6 strong innings, no hit, first start, first pitch, the next at bat, new pitcher, base hit. Second pitch, 2-run home run.
Yep, go. Oh, wow,
yeah.
Bullpen issues. That's weird. The Dodgers.
Yeah, right. And then you get the manager come out yesterday and say, well, I think our pitching's taking this step forward. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Yeah. So if perfect game is 10 out of 10, you're like, oh, that's so cool, super special. I think a no hitter is an 8 out of 10. If you do a combined no hitter, you got to at least take 1 point off. Like if I'm there at the game, that's super awesome. But more than likely, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's cool, but I wish he could have had the chance to do it himself.
Yeah. No, I get that part. It doesn't look as fancy on the scorecard, but I think difficulty meter it does up it a little bit just because of the factor that you're throwing more people. The human factor becomes more because you're throwing more at it. So I get it. Yeah, definitely, it's not the most sexy thing, combined no hitter. But I mean, what was it back in the early 2000s? You had the Astros, so was it 6 combined pitchers that combined no hitter?
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Let's see. What year do you think that was? We're going to see how accurate you are.
Man, that's tough. I'm going to say 04. I feel like that's a little too early.
I was going to say
probably
08 or 09, but
see, I'm thinking it's probably closer to like 06.
Okay, well, I like it was 2003.
Oh, so I was actually
they had 6 pitchers.
Yeah. Was it against the Mets?
No, Yankees.
Yankees, okay.
Which was
Yankees.
It's weird because
New York. Yeah.
It's weird because Astros at that time were an NL team. So
yeah.
Could you name the starting pitcher?
Oh,
just think Astros.
Do I know the name?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're definitely.
Yeah. Roy Oswalt.
Nailed it, dude.
Okay.
I thought you might say Clemens.
Then,
Clemens was with them later on.
Was Octavio Dotel one of the pitchers?
He was.
Okay.
Can you name one more?
Oh, Billy Wagner.
Okay, can you name one more? Dude, if you can get all these, it's gonna be stupid.
I don't know if I can get any more after that. That's all I got left in the. I think
you'll know at least one more.
I know at least one more.
Yes, yeah, you know the name.
Oh man,
I can give you a hint, but
give me a hint real quick. See if I.
All right, Game 5, 2005 NLCS. Albert Pujols crushed a home run in the top of the ninth. Shut that crowd out. It was like off the wall. It wasn't like off the. I mean, like it was off the concourse or whatever.
Oh,
I think his number was 54.
I can picture it in my head. I can picture it in my head, but the name is not coming to me. I don't know. I can't think of the name.
I'm gonna say you're gonna be mad.
I probably will be.
Brad Lidge.
Oh, I had Brad Lidge, and I was like, maybe that's too early. Oh,
no, same one.
Yeah,
same one. Brad Lidge. Yeah.
Dang.
Okay, so the other one is Peter Monroe. I
Yeah,
don't remember
know
him as a
Peter
pitcher.
too much. No.
Kirk Saarloos. Saarloos. Never heard
Nope.
of them.
I don't
But,
really know that
dude, the
one.
fact that you got Billy Wagner, that one I didn't think you were going to have. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I knew Billy. You know, he was the big closer back in the day with him, and then I remember Dotel just because. I mean, it was Octavio Dotel, one of the best setup guys in that era, and then ended up taking over as the closer once Billy moved to the Mets.
Yeah, well, eventually the Mariners tied that record in 2012. So,
Did you just see that J-Rod just put up 41 in the home run derby?
someone check his bat. He's corked.
He just absolutely destroyed Pete Alonso.
Did he really? Dang. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad. That was the second to last round?
That was the last round.
That was the championship? Good.
No. That was the. I should say that was the last round in the first round. The last
Okay.
two to go. Yeah, he beat him by 20 home runs.
Pete should have just looked at the score and said, "No, I'm not winning that one. Sorry."
I know. And my thing was like, you really gonna put him right off the bat at home against Pete Alonso in the first round? You could have at least swapped it around. Him and Vlad had the same amount of home runs. You could have swapped it around so it made it easier for him to advance because we knew Mookie Betts wasn't going to go far because Mookie's just not that guy. But yeah, 41 in the one round.
Colin did put it in the chat that Vladdy he eliminated Betts. So sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew it was happening.
Taking out LA, let's go.
I knew it was happening. I knew when I saw Mookie in there, I was like, yeah, there's not really much of a chance. I thought maybe if he went up against like an Adolis Garcia, he may have a chance. Nothing against Adolis Garcia, but he's just not one of the big power names that you think of in baseball.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew Mookie was just probably more just for the.
I can't believe
just for the fun of it.
3 of the 6 still, and let alone you picked Royal. You didn't pick Roger Clemens. You picked Royal as well, which is pretty impressive.
I mean, you want to know how I remember part of this?
Yeah, I want to know.
Is the baseball game.
2 MVP or which one?
MVP. There used to be this. I don't know if you remember on MVP back in I think it's probably 04 is whenever it had it. There was the spot where you can replay certain events throughout baseball.
Oh, Madden used to do that too.
Yeah, and this was one of them. You had to finish out the final like 2 or 3 innings without giving up a hit. And so that was how I remember. I knew, that some of the names started coming to me. But I mean, the Billy Wagner and Dotel, those ones are. It's kind of more than likely you're going to hit it if you throw it, a dartboard back in the early 2000s for the Astros.
True. I was waiting for you to say Eric Gagne. No.
Hey, don't diss the Gagne.
I know he was good even with the Cardinals before he got hurt again.
Yeah, Gagne. He after he got off the roids, he was still somewhat decent.
Hey, legend? No.
No, that's no legend. That man took steroids.
Yeah. Well, hopefully none of these guys did take steroids. The MLB draft happened, which they are doing such a better job of marketing the MLB draft. They're getting more prospects involved. King Griffey Jr. was involved this year, which is good. He's had almost a full 180 of his interactions with the game today compared to what it was like 4 or 5 years ago. Pre-pandemic.
Yeah, he's really kind of became more involved. Like he was one of the coaches for the World Baseball Classic for the USA team, and now you're seeing him, do other things throughout baseball. I think it's cool to see, one of the greatest players to play, kind of getting back into baseball. Maybe he just needed that, years off, just kind of away from baseball, and now he's like, okay, it's time to get back into baseball.
Yeah,
which
so
is never bad.
Oh yeah, no, and I think it's definitely good for baseball, especially when the All-Star game is in Seattle. Let's go. Let's get that guy out there, because I'm sure he still has a lot of love for the city. Number 1 overall pick was the pitcher out of LSU, who is absolutely insane.
Yeah,
make no-brainer. You got to pick him no matter what. Like he's obviously going to get a ton of money as far as like what he's above slot, below slot, whatever you want to talk about. That is the slot. Was him. I think that was
yeah. There was, back and forth. Maybe they take Dylan Cruz, the other LSU kid. But, I mean, you look at those numbers that Paul Skeens put up this year. It was absolutely insane. It's one of the greatest pitching seasons in college baseball history.
Yeah.
And one stat they talked about last night, and it kind of blew my mind when they said it, is that 50% of the innings he pitched this year, he went 3 up, 3 down.
That is impressive.
Is that, I mean,
No
when he's,
runners.
yeah, when they said that, I was like, wait a second, that is an insane stat. And the one thing I don't think a lot of people know, they look at this year and they see the pitching numbers, absolute, tank of a pitcher. The guy is actually a really good two-way player.
Yeah.
Before he went to LSU, he was at the Air Force, and he put up some really solid offensive numbers, batting over 300, was it 16 home runs? I think he hit 13 home runs, 40 RBIs, one season he hit, 11 home runs, 40 RBIs. So offensive wise, he's really good. And they were talking to the LSU coach last night. He was part of the draft coverage, and they're like, is he a two-way player? And he said, absolutely, this guy could be a two-way player if he wants to.
Yeah, I did see that. He said he wants to be number one pitcher, but at the same time, I think because of the success that you've seen from Shohei, you're going to see more teams like, why would we not see if this works? Because if it does, my goodness, you could have something massive on your hands. And I think remember Mason Wynn was one of those guys, and then now he's pretty much almost only exclusively, of course, a shortstop. So that might, but be part of the player's decision too. Is like, no, I want to get the major level as soon as I can.
I mean, the Giants, they drafted a kid last night, and when they announced it, they announced him as a two-way player. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, pitcher or this, because they're like, teams were him-hawing back and forth, and the Giants just came out and said, yeah, no, he's a two-way player. We're going to give him that opportunity to see if he was able to do the, both sides, going forward. And if not, then we'll probably, I think they said he'd probably slot in as, one of their, top pitching prospects.
Yeah. Well, I think it was great that Pittsburgh is going to have this. And they have some good pitching prospects out there right now. The dude, they're saying that the value of this pick is $9.7 million for Paul. And what is he? He's 6'6". I mean, this dude is huge. Some of the other picks, you said Dylan Cruz. Obviously, I think that was a solid pick. I mean, this is a team in Washington that is like they're doing a good job of rebuilding quicker. I mean, look at the difference of the momentum with this team and the Royals. The momentum of this team and what the Tigers have done for, it seems like, close to a decade of just rebuilding. Okay, we're close. And here we are. I mean, this is a team on the rise, I think, quicker than most expected.
Yeah, and it's all thanks to Juan Soto basically not wanting to sign the extension, and Padres saying, here's a whole farm system, take it. And I mean, because at that time, the Padres had a top 5 farm system, and they wasted every single one of those guys, except for one, Jackson Merrill, to get Juan Soto. And we've seen the return so far. It hasn't been what they expected. And now you've got guys like, Wood and absolutely just blank, but you got Brady House in that system too. Mm-hmm. You got Kate Cavalli, who's dealing with the elbow issue. Great young pitcher. Josiah Gray's had somewhat of a solid year. It's kind of been a wish-washy up and down season for him, but I think we've seen him kind of take a little bit step forward compared to last year. Ruiz is hitting really good right now. You've got some good young guys there that, in a few years, if all those guys really hit, you've got a solid team that could potentially. And now you throw in Dylan Cruz, who, I mean, was absolutely, it was, Skeens and Cruz. Who did you want at one? And then the other team was going, okay, we'll take that guy next, because it didn't really matter at that point, because those two were head and shoulders above. And this is a great, top first, couple round draft this year. I mean, the amount of prospects that were there. So, yeah, you end up with that, and then, but it just speaks to, I think what they're doing is they're starting to build, and they're building right, because this is a team that hasn't really drafted a whole, great too much, lately. We've seen them miss on a lot of guys, like Carter Kieboom. Everyone thought was going to be the big guy when they got rid of
remember
Trey Turner.
Yeah, who is that? There are so many because what position did Carter Keeban play?
He was second, short, third. They weren't quite sure what. Yeah,
but man, there's been a couple of these guys where they were Remember Mejia?
Hmm.
Like how the Indians were like, or I guess
Yeah,
Guardians.
Francisco Mejia.
They were so excited about him, wouldn't trade him for anything. They finally do, and he never pans out. Like there are so many of these guys that this happens to. Which I couldn't remember what position Torkelson played, but there are some of the draft picks that I just not scratching my head on, but I'm like, man, you can't. Like I just don't like it when all your eggs in this basket. The Royals were one of them. They drafted a high school catcher and a high school pitcher, two very volatile spots. This is a team that needs more top end talent, yes, but more than that, they just need guys who can play, have lower floors, because they got some low floor guys right now. That was one of the teams that left me scratching my head. The Guardians was the other team, did the same thing, high school catcher. Maybe he doesn't be a catcher, and I shouldn't exclude those because it's not like a rule, but this is a high risk thing, and the catcher is like tight end in the NFL. It's so stupid hard to get there quickly. It's going to take time.
The only time you draft a catcher is if you know the Dodgers are interested in them, because it seems like the Dodgers have always, or at least lately. I mean, you got Will Smith, you had Ruiz, now you have Cartay, now you have Dalton Rushing. You've got, catchers everywhere, prospects. So, but yeah, I was as a, for the Royals, I was hoping Rhett Lauder from Wake Forest would have dropped, because I thought that would have been like the perfect pick, because the floor is where it is. The kid is absolute ace, start of the line guy right now. And, the potential of the ceiling, getting, just more refined, I thought was the perfect scenario for them. Obviously, he went a pick ahead, to the Reds, which I think for the Reds, that was an incredible pick for a young team that we're seeing, really take off this year, that we weren't expecting. That Lauder's a guy that we could possibly see him and Skeens. I think if somehow Skeens made it up to the majors this year, I would not be shocked. Yeah. Just because he is that ready to go right now. His stuff is that legit. But I think for them, he pitched a lot this year in college. No reason to rush him. Same with Lauder, pitched a lot this year. No reason to rush him. But these two guys are so ready for the majors already that if both of them are in the majors next year, I'm not going to be shocked if they start out the season, or maybe a month into the season, they're on the 40-man roster, or they're up playing in the majors.
Yeah, that would be pretty impressive. One of the quicker turnarounds, but that's what happens with some of these older prospects that are ready. It just like for them, and Wake Forest was a team that competed, and we thought they were going to win it. I mean, at least once the College World Series started going. So, were there any other picks that maybe either head scratchers or steals? For the Cardinals pick, I'm like, oh, it's more of the same.
Yeah, I would. Tommy Troy, the Angels pick, kid from Stanford. A lot of people I know weren't as high as on him because of size-wise. He's 5'10", 197, not the biggest guy, and so you're probably a lot of people are thinking, oh, he's not going to be able to hit the high fastballs. But the stat that I was stats and stuff I was looking at, he faced 48 pitches last year with fastball of 98 miles per hour up in the zone. How many of those do you think he swung and missed on? 48 pitches. How many did he swing and miss on?
2.
0.
Oh, wow. I was trying to guess low.
Yeah, 98 up in the zone for a 5'10" guy. And then on top of that, they threw out another stat that he batted 517 on 95 miles per hour faster up in the zone.
That's pretty good.
So I think, you look at the numbers for a kid his size, he puts up great offensive numbers. The one thing is trying to figure out, is he going to play second or short? I imagine it's probably going to be second base. I know they have him at third base, but it sounds like it's probably going to be second. But I thought it was a great pick. And then the Marlins, how you get the number one high school arm at number 10 and then turn it around in the second round and end up getting the number 2 high school arm, whenever everyone, a lot of these analysts are like, we expected him to go anywhere from 12 to 16. Why? They were like, we expected him to go 12 to 16, and he goes, in the 30s, 40s. We weren't expecting that. And then one other thing that I noticed throughout the draft, which I absolutely thought was awesome, is that we're seeing the game of baseball kind of evolve, evolve back into closer to what we saw back in the early 2000s, the 90s and stuff, where teams are now searching for people that just hit the ball. They're not looking for the home runs. There were so many kids that got drafted last night that were bat the ball instead of home run power. And I thought it was awesome to see. There's a kid from Vanderbilt who is a bat the ball guy, but had 80, on the the list, 20 to 80 is the marks. He had 80 run skills. And there's 2 or 3 guys that got drafted like that are just bat the ball guys that get on base, but they're fast. And so I love that we're seeing, maybe teams putting more emphasis on just putting the bat on the ball instead of trying to hit it out of the park every single home, at bat, swing as hard as you can.
Yeah, I love that as well. I think it's going to make it just so much more entertaining. And because obviously right now there's the storyline of Luis Ariz, who's as a baseball player is just doing something that we haven't seen in a while, which is just put the bat on the ball, and he's not hitting for a lot of power. Obviously, he doesn't hit a lot of doubles, okay, but he's getting on base. And so then you add some speed and someone who can maybe get a couple more doubles because of the speed, and you just imagine what more that can add to a team. So, yeah, I think it'll definitely help. It'll help the game, which is going to be nice. So, I don't know. I'm excited. I love that draft season also means we're at that point for the trades. So, but we're not going to do a bunch of extra trades, previews, all that stuff this week. We'll get to that. But we do want to give out some Cy Young awards, things like that. So we're going to do that. And then at the back end, we're going to do biggest turnaround potential. So these are the teams that, man, we look at it right now. Maybe on paper they're not doing well, but they had the best shot, or vice versa. So right now, who is your NL Cy Young Award winner?
I mean, this might be a little biased, but I'm going Kershaw. I think Gallen has a great argument also, but I mean, I think what Kershaw is doing right now is, at his age and leading the NL and ERA, and one of the top 10, in strikeouts in the National League, the number 1 in WAR in National League in pitching. I think what Kershaw is doing at his age, when everyone was trying to write him off a couple of years ago, and okay, his career's, we've seen a down year, maybe his career's starting to go. The guy's got a 2.55 ERA right now, so it's hard. And I don't want to take nothing away from what Gallen's done, because I think there's a very good argument for Gallen or Kershaw right now, but I mean, I'm gonna let the bias play a little bit, and I'm gonna say Kershaw,
because I'm gonna go with Gallen. For a lot of the things you said, but the biggest thing that's different for me, both the records are practically the same, 11-3 versus 10-4, is just the innings right now. And to me, that's one of the things I put so much value in when it comes to starting pitching. Now he has, 3 more games he has started, and they have the same decisions. That's what I love about Kershaw, is he's getting the decision almost every single time he goes out there, and that means something to me. I don't know why it does. It just does. So both of them have the same whip. Both of them are almost the same average. Kershaw has only given up 2 home runs to Zach Gallen's 1. So both of them are playing so well. I think you can't go wrong with either one. I think more than likely these 2 things are going to get split, and the one thing that's going to hold Zach Gallen back is Merrill Kelly. So I think if you had to say the numbers, which one would you put money on? You'd have to put your boy, because of the teammate thing. That's always been the thing. So, all right, who you got for the AL?
This one, I think, is a little more cut and dry right now, and
Really?
I think it's Framber Valdez.
Okay.
I think what Framber, I mean, it's tough to argue what he's done. I mean, I thought Kevin Gausman was another name that you could possibly throw out there, but I think right now, I think what Framber's done, the win-loss record doesn't look great, 7-6. But I think that speaks a lot to what happened at the beginning of the year with the Astros, where they just weren't playing great ball, as a team. But I think, Framber, 2.53 ERA, 116 strikeouts. He's been really the only consistent guy for the Astros all season. That's taken Jordan out, because Jordan's been hurt, and then that pitching staff, it took a big hit when losing Justin Verlander, and who was going to be that person that stepped up, and Valdez was that guy.
Yeah, so I'm going to say mine, but I'm also going to give you the other one that I would love to pick, but the dude is 4-3 with 18 starts. That drives me insane. It's Sonny Gray, has had a great year, almost 100 innings pitched. He's 1 out shy. Really good, a decent whip. He still walks a couple batters, but I'm going to actually go ahead and I got to pick Nathan Eovaldi. As much as I don't necessarily believe it for the full season, right now it was him or Shane McClanahan, and the difference for me was innings pitched. Obviously, with Tampa Bay, that makes sense. Eovaldi has 117 innings pitched compared to Shane McClanahan's 96. Few home runs given up, good whip. So, I could see Framber Valdez. I think the one splitting thing, as I would think the voters would lean towards Eovaldi, is the record. I think even though they know wins and losses don't mean as much, I think that eventually will come into play a little bit. But just a thought.
I mean, yeah, I get. Yeah, the record doesn't look great, but I mean, we've seen guys win with absolute garbage records, and
That's true.
it's because the voters don't put a whole lot of weight into win and loss record anymore when it comes to baseball. Because if that's the case, Urias would have at least one, Cy Young award over the last couple of years. He had 20-something wins a couple of years ago. Yeah. So yeah, it just kind of at that point where.
But if they're both even stat wise, and one has a record that's 6-7 or 7-6, the other one has a record that's 10-3. Well, if they're even across the board, you got to pick something to break the tie.
But you also got to look at, okay, how many runs did the other, did his team put up in that game? Say he gives up 1 run and you lose 1-0 because your team can't put up a run. You can't put that on him really, because your offense doesn't show up. It's, it's kind of the whole thing with, Alcantara last year. Mm-hmm. The dude, he had no one to help him on the other side of the ball when it came offensive wise. And it's just, I think that's part of the aspect is you got to look at, because I know he's lost a couple, 1-0, 2-1 games because his offense was just nowhere to be found.
It's nuts. Well, who is your AL MVP? We're going to say American League on this one.
I mean, is there even a question on this one?
Do you want to go ahead and put him for both? Not both awards, or do you have? I mean,
he's obviously Shohei's the AL MVP. Maybe if he can pitch a little bit better. I mean, not saying he hasn't pitched good, but if he pitches a little bit better, he's got to pitch a little bit better just to get his name in that Cy Young award. And if he does, I mean, we could see a guy that wins both the MVP and the Cy Young, and then not be because he was that dominant of a pitcher. It's because he's that dominant on both sides of the ball.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're 100% right. It's Shohei Ohtani. Now, I would say if he didn't get hurt, there was a good chance Judge could have done it, because without Judge, the Yankees have clearly needed a valuable player here. So much so that they fired their hitting coach. I don't know if you saw that. They're like, it's a break.
No, I did not.
You're done. If you look at their record right now, man, they are, I think, like a game up on the Red Sox. 1 game. So falling to 4th in division. All right. So anyway, back to the AL. It is Shohei Ohtani. So we'll move on real quick to the NL. It's Ronald Acuna. Like, how can you not pick him? The dude, 41 stolen bases. I'm so excited. I hope he gets to 75 at least this year. That would look incredible on the stat sheet.
I mean, he's on pace for 40 and 80 right now. I mean, because he hit the 40 mark at exactly midday.
Well, he only has 1 in those last 8 games. That's the problem.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that tells you though. I mean, he hit the 40 mark. Right at the midway season. Why not be? I mean, you could easily do it in the second half of that season, and we see a 40-80 year. Jeez.
I know.
What could be
monster? The Mookie Betts is no slouch either. I will point that out. Like, he's hitting for really good power. He's just not seeing the bases as much. But you can't fight him or Freddie Freeman is still doing Freddie Freeman things where he's hitting 320, only 17 home runs, but he's got 31 doubles. This dude is a gap-to-gap hitter. I mean, he is so good. When they got him and they didn't do the Matt Olson thing. I was like, well, you're fine.
Yeah. No, I was okay with that. Nothing against Matt Olson. What Matt Olson's done this year. I mean, Matt Olson is, tearing the cover off the ball over the last month. But I'll take Freddie Freeman. You give me Freddie Freeman, I'll run. Yeah, won't even think twice about it. No offense to Matt Olson, but Freddie Freeman's Freddie Freeman.
Absolutely, I agree. Rookie of the year, in the NL, would you say Corbin Carroll?
Yeah, the only thing for him is right now, absolutely, he is the rookie of the year. He does have the shoulder issue that I think is kind of worries me a little bit. What's going on, because he had torn that labrum before, and now he's having issues with it. And I don't know if you saw it the other day. He took a swing and immediately dropped the bat, grabbed his shoulder, and walked off the field. And that has concerns that maybe there's something more wrong there than in there, hoping that there's not. But if something does, and he does miss an extended period of time, watch out. Here comes Ellie De La Cruz, because the kid is absolutely on fire right now, and
100%.
the most exciting player we've seen in baseball. And I can't tell you
second, then third, and home. With the home plate one blew my mind. The guy's just not paying attention. I was like, all right, that's like a little thing. What are you doing?
Catcher throws it back to the pitcher, turns his back, and as soon as he does, boom, he gone. Yeah, love it.
He is electric.
Yeah.
All right, so that one is pretty cut and dry for the most part, as is right now, unless something else changes. But we have a very solid, I'm not even going to say dark horse, like just a second runner-up right now with Ellie De La Cruz. Who is your AL Rookie of the Year?
Josh Young. I think this is another one right now. It's pretty cut and dry. I think Yoshida has put up a really good year, and he put up a lot better season so far than I was expecting. But, I mean, Josh Young leads pretty much all AL rookies in every single category. And I think the way Gunnar Henderson's swinging the bat right now, if he's able to continue that, and say Young hits a rough patch or something, maybe Gunnar is able to compete, later on towards the second half of the season. But I think right now, Josh Young he's been a huge part of what the Rangers have done this year.
Oh, yeah. They have scored 531 runs in the first half, which is just an absurd number. Jeez. I mean, I don't think they're going to hit 1,000, but they're going to be one of the first teams to push for it in a while.
Yeah.
But I would definitely agree. I was trying to see if there's any pitcher. There's not been any pitchers that have jumped off the map for the AL as a rookie. So that's where we're at right now. But who knows? Things can change in the second half of the season, which is what we're going to talk about next. All right, so you have these teams right now. The division leaders are Tampa Bay. They have a 2-game lead over Baltimore, just 2 games after that amazing start. You got Cleveland, who is a half game up on Minnesota with a record of 45-45. Texas Rangers has fallen to a 2-game lead, as well as they have kind of gone a little bit further back. But while Seattle has crept back up to only within 6 games and third, I know I snuck that one in there. Atlanta, an 8.5-game lead at 60 wins already. Cincinnati has screamed to 50 wins. Nobody had that in the first half of the season with a game lead. And then, of course, the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, like everyone picked, have a virtual tie in the division right now.
Now, a couple weeks ago, we talked about this. You said, comes All-Star break, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, where are they going to be? Are they going to be Dodgers be a couple games up, or a couple games back, or they'll be even? We said even, and right now they're even.
You could say the Dodgers have 1 fewer loss. They also have 1 fewer win. So win percentage is higher technically, but they are 7-3 in the last 10 versus 4-6. And the other thing that they have going for them is the fact that the Dodgers, and they're going to get Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, hopefully at the end of July.
Yeah. So of those teams, who is the most likely to fall off? And you can throw in the Twins too if you want to, just for the fact that they're half game back. It's virtual.
Are we talking about just leaders, or are we talking about the top couple teams in each division?
You could, if you have an extra team, you can throw them out there.
Because division leader wise, if we're going off any of them, this is the team that I've expected. I'm not completely sold on them, and I know the amount of runs and everything they're putting up is the Rangers. I expect Evalde to fall. I really do. And right now, the last 10 games are 3-7. They have not played great over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so this is a team I could see fall off. But if we're just talking, top couple teams, and it's a team that I don't want to see fall off. I like seeing them up there. I don't know why. Is the Mariners. Or not the Mariners, the Marlins. The Marlins, it's just, you're still negative run differential. You're number 2 somehow, and that eventually these young pitchers are going to hit some type of roadblock. Yuri Perez and Luzardo and Cabrera and Meyer, they're going to hit a rough patch, and that team's going to take a hit because we know Jorge Soler is one of the most streaky hitters in baseball. He takes a step back. That offense is going to have basically Arias getting on base and hoping someone else can get him in because Soler hit there. So I'll throw those two teams out there, that possibility. If we're going one leader, I think it's the Rangers, and if another team, that's in the playoffs right now, I think it's going to be the Marlins.
Yeah. Well, 8.5 back at Atlanta. I don't think that they can catch them, but you're right. As a playoff contender right now, the thing that they're -5 run differential right now, and that's with a 15-3 win or whatever against the Cardinals. Now that series, I watched it painstakingly, the whole 4 games, and the Cardinals actually should have won that series 3-1. The only game they should have lost was the one that blew up on them. Like, they were winning those other games, and they did what the Cardinals do, right? They just didn't pitch, didn't field, didn't hit in the right time, whatever. So you look at that. Instead of that, they went 3 out of 4. So good for them. Their starting pitching and their hitting is very middle of the pack across the board, which is why they have almost a dead even run differential. So I think that's a good pick. For the team that I think is most likely to fall off, it's 100% based off of pitching right now. It's the Cincinnati Reds. And hear me on this. I'm not a biased Cardinal fan here, but if you go based off of WHIP, which I think is a really good indicator over all staff, how many runners are getting on base every single inning? The bottom 4 teams are the A's, the Rockies, the Nationals. All that makes sense. The 4th team, St. Louis Cardinals, because they walk too many batters. But who is in 5th place? The Cincinnati Reds. And okay, all right, maybe they're just unlucky. Maybe they're just the outlier. Okay, well, the Royals, the Pirates, the Angels, the White Sox, and the Mets are the finish out the top 10. And so you're telling me there's going to be some regression here. I know they're on fire. I know everybody loves watching them. They had a massive crowd this last weekend the last time they had a home game in Cincinnati. People want to see them play, which is exciting. But I think we're going to see them fall off a little bit. Their bullpen hasn't been as one of the worst in the league. They're 34 out of 47 save opportunities, which is pretty good. But I can't they walk a lot of batters. As many as the Cardinals walk, they walk more.
Yeah. And the one thing I think they have going for them, though, is that division. It's just
weak.
Yeah.
And
no one's
not the AL Central.
Yeah. It's definitely not the AL Central, which isn't any good either, but it's definitely not, the AL East or even the AL West this year. It's not, one of those teams, those divisions. And I mean, except we talked about this a couple weeks ago, the Brewers absolutely should just be running away with this division with the Cardinals having the type of season they're doing, and they're not. So I think it gives them maybe a little bit, more of a chance. But yeah, I absolutely could see that happening, that eventually the hype will die down a little bit and then we'll see them falter, because there's only so much momentum that you can push throughout a whole season, half a season, with Ellie, eventually where he's going to hit some type of roadblock. It's just it happens with all rookies. They're going to hit that roadblock at some point, and just so happens for them, it's probably going to be at a time that they don't need it to, at the end of August, beginning of September, when they're really in the hunt of things, and he hits that, and the fans kind of go, okay, well, now he's come back down to earth. We're not this super hot team, and now we're struggling to even be a playoff.
The NL Central screams 86 wins gets you in, and you're like,
absolutely.
So the team that's outside, I'd love to say the Cardinals. Absolutely not. I think, and what's nuts is the Mets have a 42-48 record. The Cardinals are 38-52. And if you look at those two teams, one of them is 11.5 out, one is 18 games out. So the Mets are done. There's just no way.
Yeah, and they're already talking about selling guys. Scherzer, they're talking that he's going to waive his, no trade clause. I've heard, murmurs that they could possibly even look to move Justin Verlander also. So, I mean, you get rid of those two guys, your pitching staff is nothing, and you have absolutely no shot.
Yeah. The team that I think could make that turnaround, the biggest problem I think that there is, so one would be Toronto. We already mentioned that if Manoah's back, so we already briefly mentioned them a little bit. But in the NL, it's going to be the Padres, only because pickings are slim here, people. Okay, there's not a lot of pickings. But Juan Soto has done a good job of hitting for power. His OPS is back up there because he walks a ton. He's one of the reasons why the Padres lead the league in walks. It's because he's on that team. But I look at that. I'm not a believer really that much in San Francisco. And Blake Snell has done a really good job recently of being one of the best pitchers on that in the NL. So because of that reason, I'm going to say the Padres have a chance to sneak in, and they're only 8.5 back. I mean, their record is literally this. It's one game better than the Mets, and they are 10 games closer.
Yeah, I mean that was the only team I could really look at and go that is outside of the playoffs right now that has a legit chance because you got to run, plus run differential. Blake Snell is absolutely scorching hot right now pitching. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've seen those numbers. It's insane over the last month.
Yeah, it's like cursed across the board.
Yeah, 0.7 ERA, most strikeouts, most innings, most this. Yeah, the dude's on fire. So, yeah, that's the one team. If you're giving me a team that is already in the playoffs but could, possibly push, to make, to win the division, give me the Mariners.
Okay.
I see it. The pitching has started turning around. We've seen Kirby start pitching better. We're seeing Gilbert pitching better. Castillo, he's just that consistent guy. We're seeing their hitters starting to actually hit more and not strike out a whole lot. So, or I shouldn't say a whole lot like they were at the beginning, but they're starting to be more consistent. They seem like they're putting up, better fight. Give me them to possibly make a big hot run at the end. And like I said, the Rangers maybe fall off because Uvalde has a mishap, throughout the next month or so. Yeah, gets hurt or just reverts back to Uvalde of last couple, 3 seasons. Yeah. And the Astros, I think they're just kind of treading water right now until Jordan gets back, and hopefully that they can really take that step forward, which is just that team that maybe this is finally the season we get to see the Astros not really be a contender when it comes to playoff time. And I think all of baseball will rejoice. One quick thing I remember from the draft last night, I laughed. I thought it was funny, but then again, I thought it was kind of sad for the kid getting drafted. But those fans were booing so loud when Manfred was announcing the Astros pick that you could barely hear Manfred talk at all.
Well, that's what he deserves.
Yeah, I mean, you're in Seattle. It's Manfred. It's the Astros. You let him off the hook. But, I mean, like I said, I thought it was funny because it was the Astros. But then when I thought about it, I was like, man, that really sucks for that kid. That this is your moment. You're getting drafted in the first round, and you can barely hear yourself getting taken because, I mean, Manfred even stopped 2 or 3 times and looked at the crowd like, come on. You're kind of still in the moment.
Come on, man.
But I get you're booing Manfred and stuff, but now at the same time you took the moment away from that kid. His moment of being picked in the first round. And that was the one thing. At first I was like, yeah, this is hilarious. I love it. And then again, I was like, man, I kind of feel bad for that kid because now you just stole his moment of going, in the first round.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was still awesome to see that.
Well, we any other baseball notes before we wrap up with some football stuff real fast?
Nope. I think that's all I got.
Okay. Well, those that stuck around for the football, it's here. It's time. So it is preseason poll time, and I want to get to that, but I think it's going to take a couple more minutes. Then the NFL blaming the Chiefs and the Eagles both for the turf stuff is absolutely stupid to me.
Yeah. Did you see what they said? You should have changed your cleats. And the Eagles were like, we changed our cleats 3 times.
Yeah, I was going to say, of course they changed their cleats multiple times. That's what you do. Just own it. It wasn't even, I mean, the NFL, how much did they pay for this?
It was like, what was it? I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but it was a stupid amount of money. It was either, I wonder if it,
you know what the NFL makes per year? A ridiculous, stupid amount of money. So, they could afford the stupid amount of money.
And it was for a field, and they had been growing this for 8 years.
Just gross
for this moment.
Gross
and
grass.
It's like the worst, surface in Super Bowl history because they could stand on the freaking ground without slipping.
Yeah, they're just tore an ACL or anything crazy like that. That would have been brutal.
Yeah, have some big guy go down and Mahomes get hurt in the middle of the Super Bowl because the grass you put out there wasn't good enough, wasn't up to par. But yeah, I want to say it was $500,000, $300,000, $800,000. It was somewhere in that range of the amount of money that they paid. And still, we blame Oklahoma State because they're the ones that produced it.
Yes.
Losers.
Cowboys.
Yeah.
Please. Well, we're going to get into some of the preseason polls when it comes to, which mean absolutely nothing, honestly, when it comes to football. But it's so much fun to talk about. And this week, we have one of our own WPod Sports Podcast listeners and supporters and helpful people who get us off the ground, who's going to be there for Media Days again. I'm just very excited. It's going to be stupid hot, though, in Dallas.
Where's the press passes?
You know what? I'm going to ask her. Where are the press passes? This is insane.
We need W Sports Podcast.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know if you can hear it. She said, if you get the flight down there, I guess you could just drive. Then she'll get the passes.
Like 4 hours? Don't tempt me. Yeah.
Dude, wouldn't that be nuts? Especially this year. The last year that's going to be there. I don't even know where the SEC one is. It's going to, what is it, Tuscaloosa or Atlanta? I bet it's in Atlanta.
Probably, yeah. More likely.
But the Big 12 preseason poll came out, and they're picking Texas because they're back, apparently. They've done everything that they needed to check all the boxes, and
I guess quarterback doesn't matter.
Quarterback doesn't matter. Coaching records, pedigrees, sustainability doesn't matter. They picked OU to what? Go like was it fourth or fifth? Third.
Yeah, third behind Kansas State and Texas. Which
one thing that state quarterback are we getting this year?
Yeah, is it the Will Howard the last 6 weeks whenever he took over? Yeah, or is it the Will Howard that got benched for Skylar Thompson? We don't know. And that's when we did the quarterback tier thing, and they're like, "Oh, consistently good Will Howard." I'm like, "Wait, what Will Howard are we talking about? Are we talking about the same quarterback? The same one that's been there for 5 years, been benched twice for Skylar Thompson, and Adrian Martinez? Is that the same guy we're?"
Him again.
Same guy we're talking about. I think one of the things that I found absolutely hilarious is that Oklahoma State got a first place vote. Whoever voted that, I'm guessing it had to be Gundy.
Yeah, for sure. It's like that time Texas does. And you're like, oh, stop it.
Yeah. You're picked to finish 7th, but yet you get a first place vote. How does that work?
Yeah.
I actually, and then the Texas Tech one, I'm a big fan of McGuire, the head coach. I love what he's doing down at Lubbock. But I'm still, quarterback questions. You lose Tyree Wilson. You lose Pearson to Oklahoma. You lose a couple big guys on the defensive side. What Texas Tech are we getting with this quarterback? I think it's another one. I think Baylor's another team that I've got questions about. Are we getting, 2 years ago Baylor, where they're Big 12 champs, or are we getting last year's Baylor where, they're squeaking by every single game? Yeah. I mean, winning games by 2 or 3, by a couple field goals or a field goal here and there a lot of times, and then losing some games that they shouldn't have lost against bad teams. Yeah, so I think there's some questions there. I like I said, I think this is a weaker team, Big 12. And to me, I think Kansas being picked 9th, I think it's kind of crazy. I think Kansas is a team that we saw last year with Jalen Daniels is a threat in the Big 12. Yeah. And if he's healthy, you got a lot of guys returning on that team. This is a team I think people might have to, watch out for. If Jalen Daniels can stay healthy, this is a team I think they can push Oklahoma, Kansas State, Texas, maybe TCU, depending on how well Chandler plays. This is a team that I think is a sneaky team.
And my thing is, how many Big 12 quarterbacks is he better than if he's healthy? I mean, he might be one of the best ones, top 2 in the league, if not one of the best.
Absolutely.
That could be the difference maker. So at least we know Kansas defense is not that good, and we know that their running backs are sporadic. But is quarterback is the most important position when it comes to football. And if you have the best one, it gives you a much better chance
to win. Especially in this Big 12 this year. I mean, this Big 12 this year, I think
very winnable.
We've been saying it is I think a down year for the Big 12. And we saw what he did the last year against a Big 12 that we were pretty high on, from top to bottom. We thought was a really solid conference. So for them to be picked 9th behind, Oklahoma State and UCF and some of these teams, I think it's kind of crazy. To me, I have them closer to the 4 or 5 range because like you said, Jalen Daniels, I mean, honestly, I think he probably is the best quarterback right now in the Big 12. I think him and Dylan Gabriel are probably the two, that I think
Trustable.
the most reliable guys. And so, yeah, big quarterback is a big deal when it comes to college football. If you don't have, especially if you have a somewhat weak defense, if you don't have a good quarterback, you can't compete.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a good quarterback. We saw what they were with him and how much more dangerous they were. And the fact that they're returning a lot of guys and they're getting, guys in the transfer portal that they probably normally would never have got with what Leopold's done. I think this is a sneaky team that we could see challenge for this Big 12 championship this year if Jalen Daniels is healthy.
Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, and who am I forgetting? Central Florida, UCF.
Yeah.
Worst team coming in. Worst position to win.
I'm going to lean towards Houston just because I think Cincinnati could be there just because there could be, you got a lot of turnover happening with Cincinnati. And so there could be that factor. But I like the head coach that they brought in, the guy from Louisville. I think he is a really good coach. So I'm going to go Houston just because I'm not quite sure what you got going now. I'm not a Dana Holgorsen fan. Wasn't when he was at West Virginia, and now you take out Clayton Tune, you take out Tank Dell, take out some major pieces in that offense. What do we got going forward? I mean, you got a kid that was the third string backup career quarterback at Texas Tech that couldn't stay on the field even when guys were getting hurt. I think, is he that much better putting him in at Houston? I don't think so.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a rough transition year for some of these teams. It'll help when OU and Texas are out and give it a couple of years and see which one is able to compete. But I think Houston's going to have an uphill battle. Cincinnati's got a massive uphill battle. Of all of the teams, I think BYU is the most likely right now to make a shot for making a run. I mean, UCF, I'm not a buyer on yet necessarily either, but I think they have a lot of talent that they can recruit from. So, yeah.
I think
go ahead. Sorry.
The thing for UCF is that the move to the Big 12 has really helped them when it comes recruiting wise, especially when it came to the transfer portal. That now you got these kids that were at Florida or Miami and Florida State or are from Florida are in the transfer portal now, and they're going, okay, well, I can still play Power 5 football and go to UCF and play right off the bat. I think was a big deal for them, and we've seen it come, recruiting wise and in the transfer portal. So maybe that could be a team if they are able to gel. I think John Reese Plumlee is probably the best quarterback out of those 4 teams. And he's the most dangerous. Let's say, I don't know about best quarterback, but he's the most dangerous. The legs, he's got a decent arm size, could be an issue. But I think that would be my team that maybe could ruffle a few feathers. BYU, if you're going to Provo, is going to be tough just because most of these teams aren't going to be used to playing in elevation. And Provo is a very hostile place, even if you don't think so.
That's a great point. Great point. And I think we brought that up a little bit, but we're going to be breaking down more preseason polls for these conferences, especially the big Power 5 conferences as they come out over the next couple of weeks. So we hope that you're sticking around with us. We hope you're ready for football season because it is here. Football season's here. Trade season is here for baseball. And if you're an NBA fan, Summer League's here. And we even talked about that on the YouTube portion of this. So look at that. We covered all our bases except hockey because it's summer. The ice is melted.
Yeah. I mean, all you got to do is listen. You just got to listen.
Go to the wpodcast.com. You can find us over on YouTube, the W Sports Podcast, also our link tree. You can find us on all the social medias. And we even added a new one, didn't we not?
Yeah. We're on Threads. We're cool. We're hip. We're with the times.
On Threads. I don't even know what it means, but I'm excited about it. Thank you all so much for joining us. We are excited for a great summer. We hope you're going to stick around with us. Until then, we will see you all next week.
See ya.